Yeah, I think that the market has some real positive momentum going forward. You have loads of liquidity in the market. You have savings levels at all-time highs. You have companies issuing buybacks at all-time highs. Free cash flows are high. Forward earnings multiples look really good. 7 and 9% increase, which looks a lot better than 130, 135 on the 10-year. So I think that equities are the place to be. Earnings are hot and worrying. The market hasn't exactly rewarded it, but I think that with the volatility that we're seeing here and there, we see that throughout the year, but we also see continued growth, and we finish the year high.
How are you thinking about the Fed? I think the tone of the Fed this week has been a little more hawkish. Certainly speaker after speaker, at least in the last few days, seems to be priming the wheel here for a taper, maybe sooner rather than later. Does that matter to you and your forecast at all?
It really doesn't for this year and probably doesn't for next year either. I suspect that the Fed might announce, when they're going to taper in September. And I think that would be sort of step one before we get to rates. So I do think that we have some time on this. And, don't forget, they're still monitoring inflation. They're still monitoring what happens with the variant. We're in this situation now where businesses are suffering a little bit, particularly in the service sector because of that. We may or may not get kids back to school, and that'll impact the jobs number. So I think that there's still a lot of factors. I can't imagine that they would just sort of throw their hands up and give up now and sort of set us back. So I think we have time on that. And I do think that once we see a taper and once we see rate hikes, that's going to be slow and steady and supportive of the economy going forward.
What about growth versus cyclical stocks? Are you leaning one way over the other in a week, frankly, where we've had the likes of Tom Lee, who's a notable guest on this network, and others who have suggested it's going to be an everything rally, that the environment's just set up perfectly for a lot of things to go up?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think diversified portfolios are the way to go now. And I think you have to think about it in sort of two ways. Short term, the names that have been beat up the most, like the reopened trade, the casinos, the hotels, the airlines, they're well off of 52-week highs. The variant just put another wrench in that. So those are my, 1 to 2 year trades. And the longer term outlook would be things like, 5G, looking at the fourth industrial revolution, machine learning, big data collection, and hydrogen. The infrastructure bill just passed. We have the clean hydrogen bipartisan bill that we're talking about passing, which is supposed to basically research and fund clean hydrogen. Globally, we're looking to go carbon neutral. It's supposed to be 11 trillion investment by 2050. So I think, look at the bills and look where the money's going to go. And then, of course, growth in big tech. I just don't think that those trades are over. They're just cash laden. Again, they're moving into the future, into cloud, machine learning, AI. And I just think that there's so much opportunity there. And we have to think about, like, what is the new tech of the future and sort of pipe down and have that be the next, 5-year long trade.
You also like crypto, Sylvia, and I'm curious why now? We've seen some pretty rocky trading since earlier this year. And one reason that you cited to our producers is Tesla's quote-unquote investment in crypto, which is really not an investment. They have it on their balance sheet. It's not an investment in that they don't participate to the upside on crypto. So in that sense, they're not betting on the direction of crypto. So I'm curious what the justification is for putting it into a portfolio.
Yeah, so I've been bullish on crypto for quite some time. I think that eventually it will pick up usage. And, to the Tesla point, I think the initial use case for crypto was to purchase Teslas. And, we know that's sort of on hold until we figure out how to make it more green, which is in the works. And I think that, once Elon Musk gets to a point where he's sort of comfortable with that, he'll look to accept it again. MicroStrategy has it on the balance sheet. AMC is going to accept crypto. I think that, the rumor that was swirling around Amazon turned out to not be true, but, the response was certainly not no, never. It was, it's on our minds. But I also think that, there's a slew of ETFs that have been filed for. It looks like, there's at least an open discussion about perhaps allowing futures-based products to be listed. That means market makers are going to use the underlying cryptocurrency to hedge their positions. It's going to tick up the volume there. And I think, regulations, if they're sort of reasonable and look like stock type regulations, I think that it'll open up the marketplace for this, open up retirement plans. And I just think that there's so much demand and interest there that it's not going away. I'm very bullish on the price of crypto going forward.
I mean, even Lionel Messi is getting paid part of his PSG salary in crypto. No, yeah. I mean, you just don't like crypto. You love crypto. You say
I love
yeah. You've never been more bullish, right? And you see 100,000 not that far off?
I think it's reasonable. You know, if we look at the most recent price surge, it just goes to show you what happens where, you know, you get a little bit of news that there might be this new usage of crypto, perhaps in 1940 Act funds, mutual funds coming out with crypto, and that regulation is being looked at, and maybe it won't be as bad as we thought. You know, I think the world wants to use crypto. I think that there's something like, you know, 20% of accounts now hold crypto. If you look at the Coinbase earnings, you know, they beat that 60 million new user number, and mainly off of crypto trading. I just think that the demand is there, and I think that it's going to be a usable asset class. Not all crypto, you know, I'm sort of most bullish on things like Bitcoin and Ethereum and Ether. I think NFTs are going to soar just because there's so much interest in digital art now, and that sort of way of going about ownership of assets. But, you know, I do think that there's just a huge use case for this going forward.
We will see. Sylvia, thanks for your time this morning. We appreciate it very much. It's Sylvia Jablonski.